The Rivers of Life. Well, it's an interesting working title, and once again it's one of those books that I have created that haven't been put out into the marketplace, but it plays a very interesting story in my life. So it was during a time when I was starting out as a entrepreneur, and I was looking at a whole lot of so I wanted to unpack what the meaning of life was, because I thought if I could crack that code, then maybe I could actually teach it, and if I could teach it, others could learn, and life would be better. So I started playing around with hydrology. Now, hydrology is the science of the flow of water on planet Earth. And it looks at the flow of water from, through the rocks and spring through rivers, waterfalls, etc., etc. And it fascinated because I'm a water guy. I'm happy when I'm close to water, in water, on water, even in the shower. And water fascinates me because the way it moves and the way it flows. Yes, it's made up of two gases, and it's just such a bizarre thing that we have, and life is so dependent on water. So I thought, well, if we could understand life, then let's look at one of the essence of what we are, the composition. We 80% water, and how does that affect? If water flows on the earth and is affected by the moon and gravity and all these things, then how does it affect within me? Because surely that should be the key of life. So down the rabbit hole of hydrology I went, and really enjoyed it and learned a whole lot about water. And then at the same time I was creating this new model, the sphere of mankind, which is now included in another separate book, but plays a major role with us. And I remember sharing this model with a colleague of mine, and I was very proud of it because I developed this like 2D model, and I explained it, and he kind of leant over and said, so how does it move? And I was going, let me get back to you. And I went back and I kind of movement, and I was like looking at what is movement, and I remember back many years ago to high school physics, and remember, like we had all those movement formulas, for speed and velocity and momentum and friction, and we played around with that, with drawing little vector diagrams and working out the speed of a car going uphill with a load and all those things. And I thought, well, that's movement. And how does that movement relate then to the sphere of mankind, which depicts a model of me? And how do we unpack that? So what I did is I went down and I found myself at a second-hand bookstore a high school physics textbook with the right year and with all those formulas. And I just started to read it, and I watched a couple of videos online, and I refreshed my brain on high school physics. And then I thought, well, hang on, if you tell a car mechanic that you want the car to go faster, all right, there's only a couple of ways that he can do that. He can increase the power and the torque of the motor to add more power internally, or he can then reduce the friction of the tires on the road and the air friction. And the faster you go, the greater the friction. And so you've got this kind of ever-increasing kind of stuff there, but it's all defined in simple physics. That's all car mechanics are. In the Formula One, they're physics engineers, and they look at things like aerodynamics and torque and power and friction and resistance and all those things to make the car go faster. And I'm saying, if we can make a car go so fast, why can't we do that with people? How do we make people more productive? So I started rewriting the simple maths formulas into human behavior formulas. And it was a really interesting exercise because I got to make stuff up because no one had done this. And so momentum became productivity, and time was an easy one because time is time and it's a fixed thing. But one of the things that we realize is it's not time management, it's self-management around time. So that changed that formula quite a lot there. And what is distance and things, and we looked at, remember, KPIs and goals achieved or tick boxes ticked, and we played around with those sort of things. And slowly all those formulas became moving over. So we redefined things like momentum and speed and velocity, which are very simple in science, but you take them into human production, and one person or a team or group of teams or an entire company can now be defined by these formulas. Anyway, so what I did is I worked all that out, and I spoke to some high school people, high school teachers, to sort of get the okay, and then I mixed it in with hydrology. And because at that time I was thinking a very kind of holistic kind of viewpoint of that, I put in some sort of theological ideas into that, because the meaning of life has to be a lot bigger than just us. So what is it? What is our relationship with the universe, with creation, with God? And how does that look? So I put all that into the book, and then I kind of stirred, and I made a story out of it about a guy who found a mountain spring when he was hiking on the mountain, and he follows it down all the way through the different phases of water, which is a small stream, the waterfall, the plunge pool, and then you get the flatlands where the water like stops flowing in stagnation, and the banks of the river became values. And I've taught from this for such a long time, and the various impact areas there. Eventually the water gets to the ocean, and it's then redefined as either a rip current, something like short and sharp that comes and goes with high impact, or something that you can set your watch to, like the tides coming in and out, and it's the movement of water. Yet we define clocks and set, and fishermen depend on the tides, and so much wildlife depends on the tides. But you go further out and you get the ocean currents that are massive and predictable, and they flow, affecting weather patterns on whole continents. And then you go even larger, the same water becomes ocean currents, and ocean currents create huge storms. Ocean currents create world weather. Ocean currents create the climate, and they breathe for our planet. And it all comes from the water droplet that came out of the spring. And where's our role in that whole thing? So it's a real deep dive. I did submit the whole manuscript to the guys at UCT, hoping that maybe I could expand on it and use it as a master's. It came back with a note in red ink that I had violated the very essence, the very core of academia, because I had crossed the abyss between faculties. And there's no ways that a university would offer any entertainment at all into what I'd done, because the bridge between science and theology and human studies had been violated by the bridge. And I was going, okay, I now understand, but surely life is about those bridges. Surely understanding life is about the mixture pot, and we cannot operate in silos like academia and companies do. If we want to understand the purpose and the meaning and who we are and what we need to be, surely the river of life has got some answers for us all.